Hey friends, hey mom. So today we're here to talk about a certain set of headphones that got me thinking recently. And it's these Bowers & Wilkins P7s. I love them. They're amazingly well built. They have smooth sliders, strong hinges, and the audio is pretty good. They have punchy bass, really clear highs, and they have a nice sparkle to them. So these are my daily drivers, whether I'm meeting friends around Boston or just going to work. However, as of late, I've been traveling a lot to Atlanta and a few different places in the United States, which had me thinking. So these are amazing for the everyday commute, but for a 4-hour flight or something longer, these are really gonna weigh down on you. At 320 grams and a strong clamp, the headband can be really unforgiving, and you'll really feel these on your head after a really long flight. So I needed to find something that would sort of help along with that business travel mindset. So I picked up a couple new pairs of the most popular ones at the moment. So you have your Bose QC35s, which are the standard for most business travelers and travelers in general. You'll see these all over the airport in the silver or black version, and they're known for awesome noise canceling. That's why they're reliable. And then you have the new boys on the block, which are the Sonys. Again, they're pretty new. They're not as popular yet, but they are getting rave reviews online with a feature set that will really put these two against each other really well. However, before we get into this, I do want to say that I do have a couple premonitions about both these brands, and that's just because of my past experience with them. For the Boses, my parents were Bose people in terms of like their home theater, and then they gave me and my sister one of those stupid wave radio clocks. I don't know if you guys had them, but you know, they were very clean audio but pretty boring, and then extremely expensive for the time. So I always knew them as overpriced for what they offered. And then we had the Sonys, which I had a lot of pairs of these because these are my dad's favorites. So I had a lot of the DJ versions as well as, you know, earbuds from Sony, and I really liked them, but there was always a build quality issue. Even with the nicer ones that my dad had that I got to try in his office, they just always broke. There was always an issue with the wire, there was always an issue with the headband snapping or the hinges breaking. Again, this is a long time ago, so maybe this is all unfounded, but I sort of treated these like a terrible night of drinking where you have like vodka and you had a terrible night and now you're like forever scarred with that alcohol and scared to try it again. That's how I feel about both these brands. So I'm not really going in with any sort of bias, but like I said, I do fly, so I do have to pack up and get out, but I am going to test these over the next couple weeks, so if you want to stick around, we'll see if I even keep one. Peace. Okay, let's get back into it and look at the design of each of these headphones. The Boses fold flat for easy transport, but the plastic pieces do hit your collarbone, so I found that annoying when I had to take them off. However, they do have deep ear cups and nice angled drivers, so they'll be comfortable for even big ears. And the synthetic leather, which I was surprised they were synthetic, is extremely comfortable and the softest ear pads I've felt off of wireless headphones. The headband stretches, will fit most head sizes, and there's a nice Alcantara setup on the top that basically allows you to fall asleep in it. However, you don't really feel these on your head anyway because they're only around 230 grams. In terms of the overall build, the hinges move around nice and smooth, and there doesn't seem like there will be any issue with breakage. Overall, a pretty nice setup. Unboxing the Sonys, I noticed that the leather was a little bit more fake. It also smelled pretty fake. However, all that went away with time. The ear pads softened up and that smell went away. But the ear cups themselves are actually pretty shallow in comparison to the Bose. You also notice that the headband is also less padded You can actually dig into it and feel little plastic pieces. And I thought that this was going to be an issue, but it actually wasn't for comfort. The headband itself has this nice little shine aesthetic to it. However, I could see that it would be an issue for scratches. So if that's something that's important to you, that's something to keep in mind. Overall, the leather also extends to the outside where the controls exist, and it does have a bunch of function buttons on the bottom, which are clicky and responsive, and didn't really have an issue with those. And finally, again, these transport pretty well, so they do fold flat for easy carry, but the benefit of these ones is they do fold flat with the padding on your collarbone, so I did find that a little bit more comfortable when taking them off. With basic design out of the way, you might be wondering how these things look on head. And that's actually an important question because the aesthetics on your head look completely different between the two headphones. With the thinner ear cups, the Boses fit much more close to head and close to ear, so they are an overall sleeker design. Bose did a really good job of making these really discreet, and it's overall a low-profile headphone, so good job on their part. From the Sony perspective, it's much more large. To be simple. They have larger ear cups and a rounded headband that really just bring the headphone out more. So if you're concerned about bulk, this might be a big deal breaker, but it's nothing crazy. Just a little bit more bulky than the Bose are. I have no transition into sound and function, so here's a cat with glasses. The controls of the Bose exist on the right ear cup, where there's a series of tactile buttons that do the normal functions you'd expect, as well as change track back and forth. That change track is a recessed button in the middle, which requires a triple click or double click. While all the other functions worked pretty well, this function of changing track was a little bit cumbersome because sometimes button clicks wouldn't register and you get a different behavior than you'd expect. Overall, Bluetooth connectivity is pretty solid under normal use cases. Except I did find that if I was wearing a coat or the weather conditions were more severe, that there would be Bluetooth continuity issues. So while the Bluetooth connection never dropped completely, the track would skip around and affect my listening experience overall. While the Sony controls took a little bit more time to get used to, the swipes and taps were very responsive and intuitive. So whether you're trying to change tracks or answer a phone call, the experience was seamless. Carter, what's up?
What's up, Volt? Hey, how do I sound?
Booming.
I like that.
With all these features, I expected some of these to be gimmicky. However, I did find some real-world uses when passing friends in the city or talking to attendants on flights. The ear cup muting and ambient sound modes provide some nice additions to my listening experience. In terms of sound quality, the Boses had very clean mids and very unintrusive highs and lows. As a result, I think that the genre is a little bit more narrow in terms of what's appropriate for listening to. There's at one point I fell asleep with these on, but it might be because the sound signature was boring to me. However, these are easier to drive than the MDRs. We didn't have to put as much volume through them. In terms of the MDRs themselves, the bass was much more clear, and they could take higher quality audio. So we tried this on Tidal, but not other uncrushed files, so take that with a grain of salt. Overall, I think that the MDRs just had a much more fun sound signature, and they were more flexible across genres, so I'd recommend them. However, I will say that the P7s are what I usually vibe with, and I think that they have a more inspiring sound, and I found myself wanting to dance to them more than the other two headphones. But if I had to pick one, I'm picking the Sonys. Bose's active noise cancelling is constantly on, and it really helps isolate everything. However, you do feel that in your head. I felt like there's air being sucked out of my head, and I think that contributed to that stuffy-headed feeling. So there was an acclimation period of like 10 to 15 minutes for me to really get into the swing of the music and forget that I had the headphone on. However, I did find myself fidgeting with this headphone to sort of find a compromise of isolation and just relief of that pressure and stuffy-headed feeling. I did also just find myself throughout the day just taking them off completely, focusing on work a little bit and letting my ears breathe a bit, and then, getting back into it, and then there you go again, that acclimation period. Which kind of leads to my next point of while it does isolate the environment around you, it doesn't completely do it. So you can tell if someone's knocking or trying to get your attention, which would cause you to have to pull the ear cup, validate someone's talking to you, say hello, and then put it back, which again is the whole acclimation thing that annoyed me. And from there, I just basically found myself one-cupping it for the most of the day. So then that kind of defeated the purpose of these over-ear isolation headphones. The Sonys seemed to block out sound in a more natural way that didn't give you that stuffy-headed feeling. And they did as effective, if not a more effective job in doing that task of blocking out sound than the Boses. With the ear cup muting, you could really hear how effective it was at isolating away sound. Cupping the ear caused you to hear the sound trickle in slowly, and then when you removed your hand, it would just be nicely drawn out. With the press of a button, you're able to access 2 ambient sound modes, which would bring in different levels of sound through the microphones and play it right next to whatever you were listening to. I thought this was a nice feature because while it was manufactured, it just highlighted your surroundings in a nice way. Ambient sound normal is more if you're walking around the city and really want to be aware of your surroundings and know what's going on. While ambient sound voice was more for if you're studying in a cafe and want to block out most of the noise, but still want to know what your friends are talking about next to you. So some last things to note about these headphones is that the MDRs do heat up a little bit more because of the leather that's used. So over a long listening session, you'll most likely have to ventilate to get some of that heat out. But over 4 to 5 hours in a flight, I didn't really notice any comfort issues. Some of my friends that used these headphones and tested them out noticed that the ear cups were really shallow, so it brushed against their ears. And they found that pretty annoying, but again, for me, I didn't really find any issues. The MDRs also have this active noise canceling configuration, which allows you to see if there's a beanie or glasses in the way. So they're trying to optimize that situation. But we didn't really have a good way to measure if this was working well. So the feature's there, we just don't know how well it works. And then lastly, from the mic quality, they were both pretty clear coming through. But once wind was introduced, we noticed that the Bose picked up a lot of that noise, and it was noticeable on both ends. But basically that's the last and final cuts on these headphones. We should be able to figure out which headphone I like better. Atlanta can get real pretty sometimes. Anyway, I think you know where I'm going with this one, right? No? Well, if you're like my mom, a little bit stubborn, let me whisper to you. So Mom, don't get the Boses. I know you like them, but they haven't changed in years. I know Russell Wilson wears these all the time, and he wears them on game day, and he wears them with his Ciara. But it doesn't mean that they're right for you. I just want you to be happy. So yeah, I can just urge anyone to just please get the Sonys. I think you'll be way happier with them. They're a little bit more flexible in terms of listening, and the active noise canceling is actually better than the Bose. I mean, I'm not gonna knock anyone that wants the Bose because they're really comfortable on head and they have really clean mids. However, I would say that you might want to be careful with that active noise canceling because it might leave you a little sick like it did with me. But anyway, that's been the review, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments or somewhere on my social, which would be wherever I want to put them in post. But yeah, this has been Voltaire, and thanks for sticking out with me. Appreciate ya.